Hey everybody, I'm Jack Hammer. Today I wanted to go ahead and take a look at the 49ers, do a little bit of a preview for tomorrow's game against the 49ers and Packers. As y'all know, the 49ers are going to be returning to Levi Stadium tomorrow night to take on the Packers in the first game that's going to count at home with fans since the 2019 NFC Championship game. This is going to mark the fifth contest between these two organizations since the start of the 2018 season, with the team splitting the previous four contests. Green Bay is coming off their first win of the season last week, a 35-17 defeat of the Detroit Lions at Lambeau Field. One of the things about that is it's going to be interesting to see if traveling on a short week, having just played on Monday night, and then having to travel all the way out to California to play on Sunday is going to have any effect on the Packers. As for the 49ers, they defeated Philadelphia last week in a physically demanding game, which saw each of the active running backs go down to injury, but that they were still able to get to 2-0 on the season. So with that as a backdrop, let's take a look at the 5 things that I think we need to keep an eye on for the 49ers that are going to be key to the outcome of the game. And number 1 is going to be the 49ers run defense. Is that going to be able to improve? Last week, the 49ers run defense continued to struggle. They've struggled over the course of both these first 2 games, and they've allowed teams to average over about 5 yards per rushing attempt, which is the 5th worst number in the NFL. San Francisco did a good job, against Philadelphia on that first possession for the Eagles on Sunday. Really, what that was about was, the Eagles came out in a little bit different, manner. They tried to take advantage of some of the penetration that they saw from San Francisco's defense in Week 1, and they were doing a lot of wham blocking and that kind of stuff. But then after that, it didn't work that well. And after that, they decided to start just running their normal stuff, which was just basically just moving 49ers defensive linemen and linebackers out of the way. And the running backs in particular were able to gain 5 or more yards on 10 of the last 16 rushing attempts of the game. So, what's important about that is through the first 2 weeks of the season, opposing running backs have gained 5 or more yards on 46% of their rushing attempts. So, after running the ball, after barely, and as far as the Packers go, they barely ran the ball due to falling behind early in that blowout loss to New Orleans in Week 1. They came back in Week 2 with a much more balanced attack. They really featured Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon during their win over Detroit on Monday night. Of the Packers' first 25 offensive plays, 12 were on the ground. And for the game, I think it ended up being about 59% pass, 41% run, which is still a pretty balanced attack with the way that Green Bay runs their offense. And so the defensive philosophy that we've seen from the 49ers through these first 2 weeks has been to, bend, don't break. The defense has allowed opponents to chew up yards really in the middle of the field until they get to about the 35, sometimes the 40, right in that area. But once they get down there, they're able to step up and shut the door. So I think that one of the things that's going to be really interesting there is, can the Packers continue to run the ball like other opponents have against the 49ers? And is that philosophy going to be able to work when they're facing a quarterback that is as talented as Aaron Rodgers is? So that's number 1. Number 2 is going to be, can they stop Aaron Rodgers? So, the running game, you got to be able to stop the run. You got to be able to stop the pass. Aaron Rodgers is easily the best quarterback that the 49ers are going to have played so far this year. And that Rodgers is going to be able to make some plays. That's just a given. So they just need to really try to focus on eliminating or limiting the amount of explosive plays that they allow. The 49ers secondary is a little bit unsettled. The starting cornerbacks right now aren't going to be known. And I think we won't know that for sure until game time. We might have a little bit of, maybe about 90 minutes before the game, we'll have a better idea. And so it's really going to be up to that pass rush to help slow Rodgers down. And, I think right now when the word just came out that Alexander Jenkins, who has been replacing David Bakhtiari at left tackle, will be missing the game this week with that ankle injury that he suffered in the game last week. So he's out. So that's definitely going to help out Nick Bosa, D Ford, and the 49ers defensive linemen with putting pressure on Aaron Rodgers. They really just need to be able to continue doing like what they did during that 2019 regular season matchup with Green Bay. They were all over Rodgers throughout that game. They hit him 10 times, sacked him 5. With the injuries up front to the Green Bay offensive line, that should be something that the 49ers should be able to accomplish, especially if Green Bay doesn't try to run the ball. And one other thing of note on this is that Nick Bosa, if he's able to record a sack on Sunday night, he's going to become the first member of the 49ers to record a sack, or at least one sack, in 3 consecutive games since Aldon Smith did that in 2013. So something to keep in mind there. Definitely something I think we're gonna see. I think we're gonna see him come up with a sack, maybe 2 or 3. It's going to be interesting to see how that third string left tackle is able to handle going up against Bosa. Really quick before I go on, Radical Centrist says, "Hey Jack, all the way from the UK. Been a 49ers fan since 1983 when the game was first shown on TV over here. Appreciate your work. This is awesome. It's cool to see somebody all the way in a foreign country over there in the United Kingdom who's able to check out this content on YouTube, and I appreciate everybody that follows, and that's just really awesome to see. That kind of stuff gets me super excited. Want to make it over there one day. I've never been there. I've only been to Europe one time. I went to Spain a couple of years ago, and would love to get back over to Europe. And United Kingdom is actually one of the places that I'd like to visit for sure. Moving on. Item number 3 is going to be the offensive, running the ball for the 49ers. Who's going to be doing that? Through each of the 4 running backs on the 49ers 53-man roster, the original 53-man roster, has been dealing with some kind of injuries, and 2 of them, Raheem Mostert and JaMycal Hasty, they're not even options for Sunday. Mostert's done for the year. He only had those 2 carries against Detroit, and he's out. Meanwhile, Hasty's going to be out for a while after suffering a high ankle sprain against Philadelphia. I think there's a possibility that Hasty actually goes on IR for a few weeks, so that the 49ers can bring some other guys up to the active roster to take place in these next couple of games. So according to my understanding is that you can place these guys on injury reserve. They need to miss at least 3 games, and then they can come back. That was something that they put into place last year with the new COVID and all that stuff that was going on. So there's a possibility that Hasty's might end up on IR, and the same thing with Kevin Givens. So that'd be something to keep an eye out for. You probably won't see anything on that until maybe a little bit later today or early tomorrow before they announce the active roster. So with Hasty dinged up and Mostert down, Elijah Mitchell took the start last week, but he suffered a shoulder injury in the at the beginning of the 4th quarter down at the goal line. And then Trey Sermon suffered a concussion on his first NFL carry. So the 49ers are really beat up at the running back spot. But 49ers got a little bit of good news yesterday when Kyle Shanahan announced that Trey Sermon had cleared the NFL concussion protocols. All signs point to him playing on Sunday night. And probably he's going to be getting the start. That would be my expectation. He was a 2021 third-round pick, spent most of the preseason and training camp working with the starters. So it makes most sense that he's going to be able to step into the starting lineup. And we saw him be able to be a little, explosive when he got onto the field. And that, I know it was only 1 carry, but you saw good explosion up through there on that toss sweep. And he's a guy who has the ability to run inside and outside. He's primarily going to be an interior runner, but he has the speed to get out to this outside, especially with the way that the 49ers run their tosses. And they have a couple of different areas that they have their wide toss sweep, and then they have a toss that's a little bit shorter that they run as well. So that's going to be fun to watch, especially if Sherman gets the start and gets a lot of carries, and it's going to be interesting to see how many he gets. He is coming off a head injury, so are they going to give him the ball 15 to 20 times? The other options that are going to be in the backfield, Trenton Cannon, who they claimed off waivers last week from Baltimore. He had 1 carry against the Eagles. Jaquez Patrick, who they signed off the Cincinnati practice squad. He's also on the active roster. Elijah Mitchell is going to be a game time decision. He's listed as doubtful, but Kyle Shanahan left it open, said that he was hoping that he'd be able to play, and I think that's going to come down to whether Mitchell feels like he can go or not. If it's that close, it might be a good idea just to have him shut it down, let him get fully healthy so that it's not a shoulder injury that lingers throughout the season. And you also need to keep an eye on Kerryon Johnson. Coming up from the practice squad, along with Chris Thompson. Chris Thompson spent time with Kyle Shanahan in Washington. He was drafted by the Washington football team when the Shanahans were there in 2013. So he's familiar with this offense, and he's going to be able to, at least know the plays and probably give them a few uh, a few snaps here and there if they need to. He's more of a back out of the backfield for sure. Uh, just looking over at the comments, Josh Mangold mentions the deep ball could kill us, and that is going to be something to watch and that goes back to number 2 with Aaron Rodgers. That might be an issue. That deep ball with Rodgers and Devontae Adams could be something that could give the 49ers fits. The only thing I would say with that is that the 49ers pass rush might be able to be such that Rodgers isn't going to have the time to really get the ball deep because the ball's going to have to come out so quick. I think with the rush that the 49ers are going to be able to generate. And then in response to my shout out to Radical Centrist over in the UK, Pioneer jumps on and says, "Hey, I'm from California. I guess that's not impressive anymore." Well, it just depends on what part of California you're from. If you're up here in NorCal, maybe not so much as maybe if you're over in the Central Valley down south, just depends on where you're located. So we'll see. Getting back to the keys for the game for the 49ers. The other one's number 4. This is going to go to Jimmy Garoppolo. And, Garoppolo's he's got to come out and he's got to have a better game than he had on Sunday against Philadelphia. So can he come out and keep winning on Sunday night? Garoppolo's looking to he's had 4 previous starts on Sunday Night Football. He's 4-0. In those starts, he has a QB rating of over 122. He's been very good on Sunday night, so it'll be interesting to see if he can come out and do that again. Against Philadelphia, let's face it, Garoppolo had an uneven performance. He missed some wide open throws early in the game throughout the first half that could have extended drives. For sure, there was the out pass to Mohamed Sanu that was a layup that should have been hit. There was the deep out in the second quarter to Trent Sherfield that was overthrown. Those are plays, misses that were on, completely on Garoppolo. And then he also had the miss of Brandon Ayuk on one where he was getting a little bit of pressure off the right side because McGlinchey was getting beat. He had the ball go a little early. And instead of being able to lead, to hit Ayuk right after the window, right into the window, he had to try to throw it over the top of a linebacker. And that's a pretty tough throw. Sailed on him and it bounced off Ayuk's hands and nearly got intercepted, and it was just not a good throw by Garoppolo. So he had a little bit of a rough start. He eventually got it together with a number of short passes, and in fact, his intended air yards was only 3.7, which was the lowest in the league last week. His air yards in week 1 was pretty decent, but it definitely took a hit last week. But then he was able to come back. He was, the second quarter, they were able to get the offense moving a little bit. Again, a lot of short passes, a lot of checkdowns. Some of that had to do with the Philadelphia defense doing a good job of being deep and taking away the deeper stuff and forcing them to be consistent and hit these little, dinks and dunks down the field. But they were able to do that. And then Garoppolo just threw a dart over the middle to Deebo Samuel, just a really nice ball, fitting it in between 2 linebackers. And then Samuel does the rest and takes it down to the 11-yard line. And that set up the go-ahead score just before the end of the first half. So, these are 2 totally different situations. So I think, Philadelphia had a very strong pass rush last week. They were really forcing Garoppolo to move in the pocket quite a bit at times. And this week, the 49ers are going to be going up a Green Bay defense that's going to be without its best pass rusher, Zadarius Smith. Smith was a second-team All-Pro last year. He was a Pro Bowler in 2019 and last year, and he's led the Packers in sacks each of the last 2 seasons. So with him off the field, I think that's going to be able to provide a little bit more comfort in the pocket for Garoppolo. Plus, he's going to be playing in front of the home crowd, so he's not going to have to be dealing with that noise level that he was dealing with in Philadelphia. Just kind of that whole territory, right? Playing in, in Philadelphia with the noise and the way that they were for their home opener. It's going to be completely opposite. Now it's going to be Green Bay dealing with the 49ers fans at Levi Stadium, who are probably going to be jacked up and ready to go, considering they haven't been able to scream for a game in almost 2 years. So if the 49ers if offensive line is able to give Garoppolo time, I think he's going to have a possibility for him to have a big game. And by big game, I'm not talking maybe not necessarily even saying over 300 yards. I'm saying in the ballpark for Garoppolo, a big game could be 250 yards, a touchdown or 2. without a turnover. That's a big game for Garoppolo and the 49ers, especially if they're able to get the running game going at all with the backs that they have. So something to keep an eye on there is definitely going to be Jimmy Garoppolo. And then, Fable, he wanted to join in here, and he says that he's from San Francisco. Is that impressive? Yeah, that's impressive, actually, because if you live in San Francisco, that means you probably have a decent amount of money, because it's not cheap to live in San Francisco. You're definitely probably doing better off than I am. And I love San Francisco. I spent a lot of time working up there a few years ago, primarily in the financial district. But it's a beautiful city to walk around in. I love the fact that you can park and really see a lot of it by just walking without having to drive all throughout the city to see a good amount of it. Pinor also says, understand Sermon is an inside zone runner, but I hope Kyle can dial up some impressive designs with him. Kyle, please use Lance to remind the Packers of mobile quarterback play, big play making ability. That's a good one. I like that's a good comment, especially with my next topic. And my next topic for number 5, my 5th thing to look for with this game is Trey Lance. And I would expect to see Trey Lance get into the game. Is he going to get into the game? Even when he doesn't play, the first round draft pick, Trey Lance, he's a topic of conversation. Everybody's been talking about it all week. Didn't get into the game against Philadelphia after playing only 4 snaps against Detroit, although one of those was a touchdown. Last week was just a different situation. You're in Philadelphia, that crowd is loud. It's going crazy because it's their home opener, and Philadelphia is, just a difficult environment to play in on a regular basis anyway. And that Philadelphia Eagles defense was making things really difficult for the 49ers throughout. They're a much better front than I think most fans thought, and maybe even some writers like myself thought. And they definitely gave the 49ers offense fits. And Kyle Shanahan stated he just didn't see the benefit of putting the rookie out there. I don't necessarily knock him for that. There wasn't really a point in time while I was watching the game where I said, you know what, this is a really good spot to put Trey Lance in. They should really get him into the game right here. I think this is a good spot to put a guy in that has struggled with his consistency. He's only played 4 snaps in a game. Let's go ahead and put him in here, and let's see what he can give us. Especially when the game's only 3-0. So that's kind of was my feeling on it as I was watching it. This week, however, this is a different story. They're at Levi Stadium. The crowd wants to see Trey Lance play, and unless I don't think there's anything that he could do that's going to, if he was to get into the game, that would cause 49er fans to be upset with him and get on him. It's really the other way around with Jimmy Garoppolo. But as far as Trey Lance goes, he's in a situation right now where, to most 49er fans, the guy can walk on water. And as long as he goes out there and completes a pass or two and doesn't throw an interception or fumble the ball, it would be a positive situation from a crowd standpoint. So this is a game where I could see him getting in. And the other thing, too, is you have got to remember that the Packers haven't had a lot of success. They're kind of like the 49ers in the way that they haven't had a lot of success dealing with running quarterbacks. And Lance brings that aspect to the game. It's a change of pace that they don't possess with Jimmy Garoppolo. And Lance and Trey Sermon mesh really well in that zone read type of system. So that would be something to keep an eye on. And we might even be able to see Lance get out there a little bit this week. I wouldn't be surprised to see him play somewhere in the neighborhood of, depending on what the score is, maybe, 4 or 5 plays early in the game. And then if the 49ers get up big, have him finishing out the game. Greg Thomas asks, is there a chance we see Lance and Jimmy on the field at the same time? I don't think so. That's not really anything that the 49ers have shown throughout the practices that they did during training camp. I don't know what they've been doing since training camp, since the practices were closed, but I don't see this as being something that really benefits them. And Kyle Shanahan's talked quite a bit about wanting to play 11-on-11 football. So if you have Lance and Garoppolo on the field, you don't have that situation because Garoppolo is not going to do anything for you. He's pretty much just standing out on the side, and it become taken up having a DB who knows he's not going to do anything. So I don't think we would see Lance and Garoppolo on the field at the same time on that one. Um, uh, Gray also says miss the stick. Oh shoot, I grew up at the stick. Really, I mean from 85 to 2003. I was at the Candlestick Park every Sunday that there was a 49er game there. So that place was kind of like a home away from home. Definitely grew up around the 49ers, grew up in that stadium, from the time I was, about 10 to in my 20s and married and having kids. I was attending games at Candlestick Park on a regular basis. So definitely missed that place. That was the 49ers, and you watched the old highlights and all that kind of stuff, and the majority of the great 49er days were all taken at the Candlestick Park. I like this one. This one makes me laugh because Matthew here says someone stole my Weber barbecue at the stick. Hey, I had I laugh at this because I had a similar situation. My brother and I were the ones that had season tickets, and my brother's fiance had bought. I don't know if you remember the little hibachi grills that they have. It's a little Weber hibachi, and it has but the lid was a 49ers helmet, right? And so we would take that to the game all the time, and that's what we used the barbecue before the game. And we'd go into the game. We used to park up on the hill right off of Jamestown, there on the west side of it'd be the west side of the stadium on the hill there, and we'd barbecue, whatever. And then afterwards, we'd put the pit in the back of the truck, and empty all the coals, put it in the back of the truck, so it would sit there until we got home or back after the game. And we show up one time after the game. This was probably around '94, and the helmet was no longer there. So that was a bummer. We didn't lose our barbecue, but we lost the helmet. So getting back to the keys. So those are the keys that I have. Stop the run. Can they do it? Can they shut down? Can the 49ers defense stop the run? Can they contain Aaron Rodgers? I think they're going to be able to do both of those things to an extent, good enough to win this game. I think we're going to see the 49ers offense be able to move the ball better this week than they did last week. That Philadelphia defense, especially in the first half, was very good, much better, I think, than what we're going to see from Philadelphia or from Green Bay tomorrow night, and probably better than what you're going to see from Philadelphia the rest of the season, because Brandon Graham went down, and that was kind of a turning point in the game. And then Trey Lance getting in there. So those are the keys on the offense and the defense. Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, is going to have a good one, like I said. My prediction for tomorrow night is 49ers offense gets in gear a little bit, and I see them taking this win by a score of 30-24. That gives them 3 touchdowns and 3 field goals. That's about right. That's how I get to 30. I think they're going to be able to move the ball pretty well against Green Bay. So you get 30 points from the 49ers offense, and then Green Bay is going to score 3 touchdowns and a field goal. Probably going to be a 49ers being up big, and then maybe a touchdown at the end of the game makes it even look that close, because the 49ers have struggled a little bit closing out the games when they get into their kind of prevent looks. So that's what we go with. 49ers 30, Green Bay Packers 24. And Piner says, Yo, Jack, do you think there's a silver lining losing to the Packers? I can see the Jimmy wins, though, argument beginning to crumble, and Kyle gets the chip on his shoulder to see improvement. What do you think? If your goal is to have a quarterback change, yeah, then that's what it's going to take in order for Trey Lance to get onto the field. I think it's going to take failure. So if you're a 49er fan that's wanting to get him on the field, you kind of almost need to root for the 49ers to lose. And that's this year. I'm not talking about beyond right now. I just think that the only way that Lance gets out there and takes over that starting job is 2 things have to happen. One of these 2 things has to happen. Either they need to go on a losing streak and lose multiple weeks and begin to fall out of contention for the playoffs, or Garoppolo needs to get hurt. Those are the two things that I think have to happen in order for there to be a quarterback change. Just go and watch remember how Shanahan handled the quarterback situation even last year when Garoppolo goes down and Mullins is playing. And even if you think that he was playing at a decent level, which I do think he was playing at a decent level, the problem was he made mistakes week in and week out that cost the team games with interceptions or fumbles, and that cost really is what the main reason why the 49ers didn't make the playoffs is because even week after week they'd be in these games and he'd have a turnover that would be a deciding factor. Look at the Washington game and the misses against Philadelphia early on in the season, and yet Shanahan stuck with him and said he was the best option and he was better than Beathard. And then we saw Beathard play, and Beathard was awful, quite frankly, even though the team won a game with him. But I think it's going to take some time. They're going to have to lose, and so this is here you go, 3-game losing streak, something like that. That's kind of what it's gonna take. Maybe a 3-game lose. Maybe they're 2-0. Maybe they lose these next 3 games, and if they lose these 3 games, then you see the switch at quarterback. But that's not a good route to go. And I think the way that Shanahan's playing it right now is fine. You get a quarterback. From everything that I've seen and I've heard, these quarterbacks that are in this draft class are not very good, and definitely not as good as the prospects as what came out in 2021. So you've got your quarterback of the future. You're okay salary cap wise right now. You have bloated contracts that are going to be coming up starting, in the next couple of years. Just think about the fact that Eric Armstead's going to cost $20 million against the cap next year if they don't restructure his deal. The contract for George Kittle is going to start to go up here pretty soon and hit its number. Fred Warner's deal is going to take a couple years and it's going to get there. Same thing with Trent Williams and so on and so forth. The salary cap is going to go up a little bit, but next year the 49ers are already tight on the cap and they don't even have a full 53-man roster of signed players. There's going to be a lot of roster churn after this year because a lot of these guys were brought back on one-year deals. So you went out, you spent big on draft capital, you got a guy that you feel like you can develop, and you have a quarterback that you feel you can win with now. So they're in a really good spot. I think the quarterback room at 1 and 2 is better than it was last year because I do see Garoppolo playing better than he played last year. Part of it may be because he's fully healthy for the first time in really since the beginning of 2018. I think that Trey Lance may not be the passer yet that you want him to be, but he brings other aspects to it that might be able to might be able to compensate for that, which is part of why I had put Lance down as said that I would have started Lance starting week 1. I think he's going to help out the running game, that portion of it. My concern was the passing side, and I think against Philadelphia, we saw what happens when you have a mobile quarterback who can help your running game, but at the same time is struggling in the passing side. And I think we saw that and how that affected the Eagles last week. And I think that's partly what the 49ers have avoided so far by not just dumping Garoppolo and going with Lance to this point. Runa says, it's bad for 49ers, in my opinion, for Jimmy to fail on the field because it means his trade value is going to go down. For sure. That's all plays into it, this whole thing too, this whole discussion of the quarterback situation. There's a lot of things that are going on, and that's part of it. They want to get something big in return for him. And by big, I'm saying, maybe a first round pick. They got him for 2 seconds. So if he can have a good season in this offseason, you're able to trade him for 2 seconds, then you're getting back what you gave up. And that would really be huge for the 49ers to get a second round pick. Because if they can go into this draft with 2 seconds, who knows? Maybe you can package 2 seconds to get up into the top of the back of the first round to pick a guy that you want. And drafting guys in round 1, even if it's at the back end, in the 30, 31, 32 range, is helpful because of that fifth-year option that you get on their contracts. Which, if that guy turns out to be a really good top-of-the-line player, that third-year contract is going to usually be less than that fifth-year option is usually going to be less than what it would be for a new deal. So that's my 2 cents there. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see. Luke says, "Hello, Jack. Hey, I like Luke. Luke's a good guy. He follows these shows all the time. I see him on here. He's one of the really good commenters over at the Press Democrat blog for a long time, and I've been following that blog for a long time, even before I started becoming the writer over there. So good to see you in here, Luke. Let's see what else we got. Thomas asks, did you see the Packers might be shuffling the O-line where they have 3 guys playing a position for the first time? Yikes. Yeah, that's what we talked about that a little bit. The left, they're down to their 3rd guy now at left tackle, and Jenkins, who was playing over there, was a guard who was playing left tackle. So it's going to be a little bit of a mess for Green Bay up front. It's going to be I'm interested to see how they try to manage their way through that. It's not, think about the 49ers last year and the struggles that they were having with their offensive linemen with all that shuffling going on. Really the way that they got around it was they got the ball out quick. They tried to stick with the running game, the quote Jimmy Gimmies, the jet sweeps and stuff like that. I don't think the Packers have those kind of players, but that's where a guy like Aaron Jones comes into play because he gets the ball of the backfield quite a bit. He's a really good receiver, and he can run the ball well, as well. But he's also a threat as a receiver, and he's done very well at that in the first couple weeks of the season for him, especially last week. And then Greg Thomas asks, do you think Jimmy G is playing better this year because he has some real competition in the quarterback room? Absolutely. I definitely think so. Garoppolo hasn't. He came in 17. They didn't touch the quarterback room in 18. They didn't touch it in 19. They didn't touch it last year. He's been the man since he got here. The only time he had to prove himself was in 17, because he needed to prove himself, and he needed to prove himself worthy of the contract that they were going to give him. So yeah, I definitely think having some competition in there has been helpful. I'm not going to say that's the reason why we're seeing him be so mobile, because he is moving. He's moving much better than he's moved, like I said earlier, since 2017. I think. I don't even think we saw him moving around the pocket this good in 2018. Those first 3 games of the season. So definitely. Seeing a better version of Jimmy Garoppolo from a movement standpoint, and he's doing okay in the passing game. Last week was, like I said, was a struggle. But the 49ers have so many weapons that they can go around and look at different and start to hit different things and make it work. He's not hitting the downfield throws last week. Okay, we're gonna beat you with screens to George Kittle and screens to Jermichael Hasty. We're going to hit a little Texas route over the middle to Hasty, and he's going to pick up 12 yards, and we're going to throw screen passes to Elijah Mitchell for 12, 13-yard gains, and then we're going to do what we always do, and we're going to beat you over the middle to Deebo Samuel, and that's what we saw, and it's something that works for the 49ers, even though as 49er fans, you see it each and every week, and so to you, it seems like teams should be able to shut this down in the NFL. For whatever reason, they just continue to be able to make it work. And I think a lot of that has to do with Garoppolo's consistency. He's not, I wouldn't say he's playing at a high level, but as long as he doesn't turn the ball over, he's going to win games because he has the talent around him to do that. Let's see. I don't see... just looking to see if there was any good ones here real quick before we jump off for today. Matthew says, I want to see Bosa with a sack and fumble. That's a good one. Remember we talked about that earlier. If he gets a sack, it'll be the first time since 2013 that a 49ers defensive player has had 3 sacks in 3 straight games since 2013 when Aldon Smith did it. Waruna, he says, I also think this is not a Super Bowl year, and we are wasting time to develop Trey. But if Jimmy is playing, we need to play at his best so we can get something back. And and I understand this one. This is a little bit different. Uh, uh, it's a little bit different. I agree that the 49ers aren't going to be. I think the 49ers might have a possibility to get into the Super Bowl, but I don't necessarily think that totally. We'll see what happens come January. But this is a team, with Garoppolo, he's not a pro. He's not going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback, and there's only one guy that's lost their first trip to the Super Bowl as a starter and made it back a second time. That was back in the 70s when Craig Morton did it with he did it with the Cowboys, and then he did it with the Denver Broncos a few years later. He lost both of those Super Bowls. And then on the second part, the Lance piece, he's not going to go to the Super Bowl with him either. But, the 49ers are going to try to get there. That's why they're doing it. And I do agree with Pioneer to the extent that, again, this is another reason to go ahead and stick with, go ahead and go with Jimmy, or excuse me, with Trey. And if you lose, you lose. That's kind of the thought process there. This one, this guy over here, this guy's a troublemaker. Jesse says, Jesse, he's my co-host on the Hammer Nail Show on Thursday nights. Just hopped on, but I'm sure I disagree with it. You're saying, Jack. You probably are, because I'm going over why Trey Lance isn't starting, but I do think that he's going to play this week. And then Piner says, Maruna, I get you. I'm just not satisfied going to the playoffs and losing. Since Harbaugh, we either make it to the Super Bowl or a mediocre team. It's new to me just being a playoff team. And, unless a really good comment comes up, this is where I'm going to end on, because this is something that I'm going to talk about. That's a little bit from my perspective. You got to remember now, I'm an older guy, so I've been through 5 Super Bowls. I lived through the Super Bowl or bust era of 49ers football. So that's where I really started, right? My first game was in 80. I was a little kid. Was there for a couple games in 81 and so on and so forth. So I went through that era, and I'm at the point now where I just want to see the 49ers play as long as I can. Each season, I want to be able to see 49er football from week 1 till hopefully the Super Bowl week. As long as I get to see them play, that's cool. And quite frankly, I'd rather see them get to a Super Bowl and lose than get to an NFC Championship game and lose. I'm not okay with losing the Super Bowl, especially the way they lost to the Chiefs. That was awful. That was a game that they should have won. But I guess I'm just at the point where I can look back at the season and I can see the successes throughout the year and appreciate those for what they are, instead of feeling that it's a wasted season every season when they don't win the Super Bowl. And maybe that's because I've seen 5 Super Bowls, right? I've seen 5 Super Bowl victories. I've lived through that. And as a fan, it's exciting to watch your team win the Super Bowl, especially when you're younger. And I don't know, Jesse might disagree with me on this one because he's got kids now. But once you get older and you have kids, Sunday night when the 49ers win that Super Bowl is pretty darn exciting. But Monday morning, you're still getting up and going to work, and you're taking your kids to school, and you're not heading anywhere to get in the middle of a parade. That's just the way that I look at it. And now as in my capacity that I'm working now, I definitely see it a little bit differently. But I do want to see the 49ers be successful. I hope to be able to cover an NFC Championship game this year. That'd be fantastic to be able to have that at Candlestick. So you guys got me thinking about Candlestick at Levi's. And who knows, even maybe going down to Los Angeles for the Super Bowl. Greg says the new guys need 5 too. Hey, you're right. That's where we're different. That's where we're different, because I've seen them, so I'm a little bit more patient. And for those of you that are a little bit younger who missed the 80s and 90s and pretty much are stuck having to only hear about it from your dad or your friends, I'm sorry, and I hope that you get it, because those years, I remember as a kid watching the 49ers play, and the thought that it was just a given they were going to win 10 games, they were going to be in the playoffs, and they were going to be competing for a Super Bowl. It wasn't until the early 2000s that all that kind of fell apart, and Steve Young got hurt, and that was really the end of the whole story, right? Steve Young got hurt. 49ers had to rebuild. They had a couple of good seasons there under with Jeff Garcia at quarterback, and then they decided to get rid of Steve Mariucci, and the whole thing just fell apart and crumbled until they brought in Harbaugh for a couple of years, and then here we are again. So, yeah, and this one's a good one too. Luke says losing the NFC Championship game is horrible, and I agree with this. I'd rather lose a Super Bowl than the championship game, especially when you look at that 83, 97, 98, 11, 13, especially that 83 one. Holy moly. The 49ers had that one. They were behind 21-0, come back to tie that game up 21-21 against Washington to have it get it stolen away from them at the end. That was awful. That was the most difficult one, or one of the difficult ones. For me, the most difficult was 90, the 1990 season. The 49ers going for the three-peat. They had beat New York in that 7-3 Monday night game earlier in the year. They were the two best teams in the league, and then they just get crushed at the end of that with a field goal when Montana gets hurt. Craig fumbles the ball. That loss to the New York Giants in that NFC Championship game was the worst defeat of my time as a 49er fan. That was the worst one. That was worse than any of the losses to the Cowboys, because you could tell the Cowboy game in the first year they played was 92. The 49ers just didn't have it that day, and it wasn't like they had the lead at any point. Wasn't like they were leading throughout like they were against the Giants, because they pretty much led throughout that Giants game that they ended up losing until right at the end. 93, the darn Cowboys were just way better, and you really didn't feel like there was a whole lot of chance with the 49ers on that one. And then 94 was the 49ers in 94. That one, they win that, and that was a great one. Eric Davis, if you're out there and you watch any of this stuff, I'd love to have you on the show just to talk about your interception to start that game. The way that stadium was to begin with, and then when Davis picked that ball off from Aikman and ran into the end zone, shoot, I've never been in a stadium, and I was at Candlestick Park for some big games, but the way that stadium erupted when Davis picked that ball off and ran in for a touchdown, that was electric, and talking about it right now gives me goosebumps. So for sure. And then Jesse says the Brett Favre's Packers killed us, and that was a bad one too. That was a 97. That was the 97 championship game. That was a rough one. Again, though, that was right in the time when the Packers were had already been giving the 49ers fits, and I don't remember the 49ers really being up in that one. Barry Baller brings up the Kyle Williams game. That was in the 2011 NFC Championship game. Yep, that was a bad one too. I wasn't there, so that's why I say, as far as the ones that I dealt with being there. But I will tell you that when Kyle Williams fumbled the punt in overtime, and you knew it was done, let's just say that I did not see the field goal to win the game, because I was still in my kitchen on the floor, because that's where I was when he dropped it. I just kind of fell to the ground like a child, banging his hands on the ground in frustration over it. Kia says, Jack, talking about Harbaugh, did you ever think that our bad luck that we had during the past few years was due to a Harbaugh curse? The way that Jed listened to all of his yes boys and let Harbaugh walk. Yeah, I mean, Harbaugh, for everything, all of the faults that people want to bring up about that era, that was a great time in 49ers football, because it was a revival of sorts, going back to, that took you back to, you weren't expecting it in 2011. I mean, I remember when Harbaugh was hired, right? I'm a big Stanford fan, so I didn't really know a whole lot about Harbaugh as a coach, other than what he did at Stanford. But when he got, so I had watched what he did there, and when he got hired by the 49ers, there was just a feeling, at least my feeling was, hey, this team they've got a good team. They just need a good coach, and this guy's going to get them there. I wasn't expecting them to go 13-3 and get themselves all the way to the NFC Championship game. But you knew that he was a good coach, and those teams were just really good football teams. And the only thing I'll say about that was I wish they had figured out a way to keep Alex Smith around. I know you couldn't, but if there was a way that they could have had Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick and kept them both, that would have been best, especially as time went on. But those were great years, and yeah, there probably was a little bit of that, because look at what happened. He gets rid of Harbaugh. Basically, it seems like in a fit, because Harbaugh wasn't a yes man, and he was his own guy, and he hires Jim Tomsula, and that team was a lot of the same players as the year before, and they just, they're not good. And then when you're into it, they fire Tomsula and they bring in Chip Kelly, and that guy's even worse. I know the roster was, by that point, Balky had just totally, ripped that whole thing apart. And yeah, and then now we've got the kind of a revival, I guess, but it was only 1 year, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think the Niners roster is much deeper now, and we may be coming to. It'll be interesting to see if they can make it happen this year. Because if they can't, I think the seat starts to really get warm for Kyle Shanahan with Jed York. Just looking through the comments really quick to see if there's anything else. Notorious Gav. So Gavin says, Jack, are you still determined to grind poor juice in the ground and play him on special teams? Hey, I don't know, man. I love orange juice, so we got to squeeze everything out of there that we can. Get the pulp, get all that out of there. Get every bit of juice out of that rind as we can. Whether that's on offense or special teams, let's get that guy out there. Let's get the most out of him as we can, especially since he's not a captain, right? If he was a captain, then maybe we take it easy on him, but he's not even a captain, so let's really grind him out. Let's see, what else do we have? Yeah. Well, Runa says during the catch-2 game, that's the NFC wildcard win when the 49ers finally got over on the Green Bay Packers. During the catch-2 game, technically Rice fumbled the ball, right? Absolutely. The 49ers got a huge break of that one. If instant replay was around that year, they'd have win that game. And Green Bay goes on to the next round instead of the 49ers going out to Atlanta. But instant replay wasn't around, so I don't know. He didn't fumble it. At least that's what the refs said. Right? That's a good one. Let's see, real quick. Fidor asked, Jack, do you find Seinfeld funny? Dude, I don't know how long you've been following me on Twitter, but for the longest time I had George Costanza head on Jimmy Garoppolo talking to Kyle Shanahan on the Seinfeld on the sideline as my avatar for my Twitter profile up until just recently. So yes, Seinfeld was a classic. I can still watch Seinfeld to this day and laugh at those episodes. My favorite episode of Seinfeld was there's a bunch of them, but the best one that I could probably talk about on here was the marine biologist episode. I just love that one. Just the way that's the one where George is pretending to be a marine biologist to impress the girl that he's dating, and they end up on the beach. And at the same time, throughout that episode, Kramer is going out to the beach, whacking golf balls out in the ocean for no reason. He's just it's like he's at the driving range. He's taking golf balls out there and whacking golf balls into the ocean. And George is out there walking on the beach with his girlfriend. Next thing you know, there's a beached whale, and they come across it, and somebody screams out, "Is there a marine biologist on the beach?" And she turns to George, and he's telling the story to the folks, to the friends at the diner that they always met at, and he walks out there and reaches down into the. He says he gets on top of the whale. He looks down into his blowhole, and he sees it, the obstruction, and he reaches down, pulls it out, and he's sitting there at the diner table with a golf ball. And Kramer, and as only Kramer could do, gets that goofy look on his face and says, "Hole in one." Yeah. That was an awful recreation by me. I'm definitely not an actor, but that was that was an awesome episode. And Aruna says, "Thank you so much, Aruna, for the donation." And he says, "This show's on fire. Thanks, Jack. You made my day." Yeah, no, thank you for joining in, Varuna. You're a stud. You're always on these shows with me, and I appreciate it. I appreciate talking to all you guys. I wish we need to do that more. Let's see. Jesse says the junior men episode in the surgery. Oh yeah, for sure, right? That's when they all go to watch the surgery, and I think it was Kramer, right? Kramer shows up with junior mints like he's there to watch a movie, and in the middle of the the surgery, one slips out of his hand and lands in the guy, and they sewed up a junior mint inside of him. Yeah, that's a good that's a good one too. Oh my goodness, yeah. So all kinds of good stuff there. I don't know. It's too bad that East Bay Chris isn't in this chat, because I'm sure he probably knows a little bit about about Seinfeld as well. But no, it's fun. And Fable says the Tic Tac episode. I'm not sure about that one. I'd have to go back and rewatch. It's been a long time for some of these, but but I'm sure the other one that I get a kick out of is there's two of them. There's the contest. You might remember the contest. I'm not going to go into that one. And then there's the other one where Jerry's dating a lady, and he cannot remember her name, and she tells him that it rhymes. Her name rhymes with a female body part, and he can't remember until, and he says the name wrong anyway, and it's not until she's out of the building walking away, and he yells out the window what the correct name was. And what makes that is just so funny is it's just typical. It's a typical male woman dispute with men when it comes to things. And yes, Boulevard's got it right. Dolores! He yells at the window. That's right. Before that, he goes, Mulva, and that's when she storms out the door. Funny thing about that episode, and I cannot remember her name, the actress's name that was in there. She also did the Superman show on TV. She was actually a 49ers Gold Rush cheerleader in the 80s. So take that one to the bank. See, you talk to old guys like me, you get some crazy knowledge you might not have known. I can't think of her name right now, but you'll know you know who I'm talking about, who the lady is. Boulevard also says that Larry David was the Steinbrenner voice. That was one of the other funny things, right? One of the other that we've completely gone away from 49er talk, and we're talking Seinfeld here. But that's one of the other ones was George Costanza working for the New York Yankees, and yeah, that whole thing, and then him deciding that they need to change their uniforms, and I can't remember. I think he wanted to get cotton, or whatever it was, whatever the uniforms were. He talks them into it, and they get it, and they get out there, and it's a hot day, and everybody's too hot because of the material on the uniforms that George suggested. That's right, JJ. No soup for you. Yep. And anyway, lots of good stuff right there from to talk about Seinfeld. I was in the pool. All right, I think we're running down here, and we're gonna have to get going. Matthew says that he just picked up a super burrito, so he's gonna head out. See you guys later. That sounds like a good idea. It's almost 2:00 in the afternoon over here on the West Coast, and I know those of you on the East Coast, you're getting towards dinner time. But see, as I try to get out, they just keep reeling you back in. And Thomas Tyler, this is a good one. He says, Shanahan is the reception Nazi, meaning that he's the soup Nazi, but he's with for Brandon Ayuk. He's Brandon Ayuk's reception Nazi. There you go. I like that, except for I'm not sure how that I'll be using reception Nazi in any of my my writing just because of the connotation there. But you're right. He's definitely the reception Nazi when it comes to Brandon Ayuk. Uh, uh, comes in. He says came in a little late. Uh, I don't know if you covered this yet, but do you think the lack of running back Shanny should bring in Trey just to mess with the Packers defense? Yeah, we talked about that a little bit, and we think that's something that's going to be taking place. You'll see him playing a little bit. And then Boulevard asks if I have a schedule for when I'm live on YouTube. Yes and no. As far as like this kind of show today, this was just I like to come on Saturdays. I'll come on usually every Saturday and give you a breakdown on like my top 5 things for the game. You can also read my articles over at the Press Democrat. Go to 49ers.pressdemocrat.com. A lot of what I've went over here is in the pregame article, review article that I that was published today. But as far as the YouTube stuff, if you want to jump on YouTube, you'll see me here. Let's just start Mondays. I'm on YouTube, not on my channel, but I'm on with Silreal Sunil at Silreal Sports Talk, and we go on Monday usually at 6, from about 6 to 6:45 on Mondays. And then on Tuesdays, I do Niner Chatter. That usually starts about 5:30. That is on my channel, and that's where you guys, instead of commenting over here on the side, you guys can call in and talk to me or argue with me, depending on what you want to do. Last Tuesday was fun. We had a good argument over Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. And then Wednesdays are usually pretty open. Tuesdays, I'm also on Grant Cohn's channel. We do a film breakdown or just discussion of that week's game. Thursday night at 6:30, I do the Hammer and Nail show every Thursday night with Jesse Naylor. That's the in the comment section over here. Last Second Sports. That's Jesse's YouTube channel, and we get together on my channel every Thursday night at 6:30. Basically break down 49er stuff, as I like to say, or I said on a couple of our opening episodes, talking about the brass tacks of 49ers football, because we're at the Hammer and Nail show, and so we hammer out all the details. Then on Saturday, I do this, and then Sundays I do a pre-game show with Sunil on my channel as well. So tomorrow you'll see me on here. The way that works is because I cover the games. It's hard for me to do them from the stadium, really close to kickoff time. So what we do is on the road games, what we've done so far, the first 2 weeks of the season, if the 49ers are on the road, we're going to go live an hour and a half before. So, for example, in a couple of weeks when they play in Arizona, that game will be at 1:15. So we're going to go on right around, 11:30, 12 o'clock. That gives us a chance to break down the game, give you the, who's in, who's out as far as the actives and inactives. And then Sunday night after the game, I'll be back on my channel to give a breakdown of the game. So I do a call-in show, Thomas. Do that every Tuesday night, and I start at 6, usually around 5:30. I've been starting that. I have some things that don't allow me to start it much later, so it kind of doesn't work out great for those of you on the West Coast. But I start at 5:30, usually go to about 7 on Tuesday nights, and do the call-in shows, and you guys can call in and tell me whatever you want to talk about. And I will say that I'm a little bit different from Grant. I don't know if you guys call Grants, but I'll disagree with you, and I'll definitely push back. And I'm going to let you have your say. But the one thing that I don't like, and I don't let slide, is when people have a negative take on something, or just have a take on something, then they're just way off, right? So if you're going to tell me that Jimmy Garoppolo threw the ball over the receivers' heads 9 times against Philadelphia, I'm going to correct you, because he only threw 8 incompletions in the game. And then if you want to argue about that, then we'll argue about it. Ask Michael Miller. That was a fun conversation, and we'll leave it at that. So yeah, call-in show all the time on Tuesday night. It's a blast. I love talking to you guys. Is there an injury report for the 49ers beat writers? Barrow's probable. Cone upgraded from doubtful to probable. Yeah, I think we're all going to be okay on Sunday or tomorrow night. I think we're all going to make it there. I did get a kick out of. There was a tweet. I don't know if anybody else saw this or going around the Twitter sphere about how there was somebody was saying how 49ers Twitter is wild or odd, and it seems like all the 49ers beat writers hate each other. I don't think that's the case at all. I kind of cracked up. I was going to respond and say, yeah, you should see the local media room on Tuesdays. Or on Wednesdays when everybody gets back together for the first time after a game. It's like a Royal Rumble in there. Walking out of there with our shirts all ripped, black eyes, fat lips. But no, everybody for the most part does. They're professionals. Everybody that's in that room is professional. We work with each other as and understand everybody's there to do their job, and it's a good environment. I'll just leave it at that. There we go. We did this for an hour. I can't believe that we did this for an hour today. I was expecting to come on here for 15 minutes, and we were an hour in. Lombardi probable versus Cone. Well, okay, that one's a little bit different. I think it's a good thing that one's on one side of the room and the other one's on the other side of the room. Keep them separated. There was the one time. This wasn't a Lombardi versus Cone thing, but there was the one time during the preseason where I got a little negative on Trey Lance, and there were some disagreements, let's just say, between Grant and I on Twitter going back and forth, and I was a little afraid that I was going to have to duck a punch when I got into the media room and saw Grant there, and that's just a complete joke because Grant and I get along great. We've been debating for 10 years, so it's fine. He is one of the better personalities in the Bay Area when it comes to 49ers coverage. He does a terrific job of engaging the fan base. He's very forward thinking and sees things at times before other people, and maybe it might not be something that's gonna happen, but just he's able to kind of put things together that other people don't see, and I really appreciate about that. Even if I disagree with some of his takes from time to time, the amount of work that he puts in, knowing how much work I'm doing to try to just keep up, is extremely impressive. And Amin, how you doing? Amin, we have not talked for a long time. I'm glad to see that you've come around to realize that Joe Montana is the greatest quarterback of all time. Let's see what else we got over here. You guys just keep me in here. Yes, I will be at the Packers game tomorrow. I have a press pass. I'm a credentialed reporter this year. I'm working with the Santa Rosa Press Democrat, and as I mentioned, I write for the blog over there. It's 49ers.pressdemocrat.com. Check it out. That was a blog that really had a lot of views and a lot of comments, and it was really thriving throughout the 2010s. It kind of dropped off in the last year or so, and I was able to be lucky enough to be hired to take that blog over, and we're rebuilding it and getting it back up to where it was. The numbers last week were the best they've been since I started, and I'm just looking forward to continuing to grow that for them so that they can get the exposure that they need for the folks that they report to, namely the marketing partners and things like that. But I just try to bring the best content that I can to you guys, and I give it. I have my own. My deal is, I have my own take on things, and I used to at one point. I've been around football. Let's just say I've been around football since I was born. I have a brother that was a football player. Didn't get out of, so I was going to his games throughout high school and junior college, and as he finished playing, I started playing, and my family has been around sports. My dad was a baseball player who had a chance to go sign with the Philadelphia Phillies organization. He didn't for family reasons, but he was a really good athlete, fortunately, my brother and I got those genes. Football's always been a big part of our family. And then the one other thing I'll say about that is, um, as much as my dad helped us with understanding the game, the sports side of it, my mom was somebody that I could have a conversation about football with because she'd been around it because of just who she was married to, and her family. With her father was into sports, and her family had been into sports, and um, I could have a conversation with my mother about football, um, and have it be just as strong as 99% of the conversations that I have on here with you guys. She was a really good when it came to sports. She was really good about a lot of things, but when we're talking about football here, um, and when she was a smart lady all around, but um, when it came to the football stuff, she was able to hold her own, and that's why I'm into it. That's why I'm a 49er. That's why I've been a 49er fan as long as I am, and that's why I report on the game the way that I do. Um, as far as let's see. You guys are having fun over here now. All right. I'm going to go through these because I think these are pretty funny. Lombardi's a strong swimmer. Cone runs a quick 40. Grant is quick. You got to watch out for him. I'm taking Jack over Grant in a fight. I'm not sure about that. I know that I'm stronger than Grant, or at least I feel like I probably am. But the thing is, see, Grant comes from a boxing, his dad was a boxing, big into boxing. So Grant knows he's a better boxer than I'm sure Grant's probably a better boxer than I am. So he's got that quickness. So I might be a little bit stronger than him, but he's probably going to be able to land that punch before me. So even though his punch might not be as strong as mine, he might be able to just get to me before I do. Amin says, I want to see a 49ers beat writer combine. Hey, that would be something fun, like the all 49ers crew, get them together this offseason for a combine. We'd probably all blow out our hamstrings trying to run the 40, but that would be a fun time to do that. Grant would be running the fast 40 away from Jack if they were to fight. LOL. I don't know about that, but I'll tell you, last night I was chasing my son around, and I don't have the speed that I used to, nor do I have the stamina. I might be able to, I can do 40 yards. Just don't ask me to run 100. Hey, don't mess with me in my cone drill. I have two kids that play football, and so I'm out there working on them with these drills, getting them ready for football practice. Hey, I got myself some skills when it comes to the cone drill. I think he might be giving me a little bit of a joke there too, or it could be. Yeah, you got to watch out for Chewy's vertical. Chewy might not look like it, but that guy can leap over tall buildings in a single bound. So watch out. Don't give Chewy any problem about his vertical leap. Gav says, I'm taking Ben Meyerson in the Sports Illustrated 40-yard dash. Hey, Ben's got some wheels, so watch out for them. Bolivar asked, what level did I play to? I played high school. I played junior college. I had a couple of offers to go to Division two schools. I chose to stay home. At that point, I knew that football was only going to be maybe for the next 2 years. I was going to have to pay to go to school anyway at that level. So I just decided to stay home, and it was cheaper to do it that way. So I did that. After my playing time was done, shortly after, that's when the San Jose SaberCats, the Arena Football League team in San Jose, was starting up. And before their inaugural season, they had an open tryout. And so I went up and did that, and threw the ball around a little bit on a Arena Football League field, which was interesting because the field's so much smaller. And a guy like me, I could throw from one end of the field to the other. That was pretty cool. Never could do that on a regular field. Hey, don't mess with me on my bench press. I mean, I could probably bench press you. I don't know how much you weigh. I could probably get you up probably at least 20 times. Let's see what else we got. All right. Yes, Grant definitely has the height advantage. He's got the reach advantage. Last time that I would, the only person that might be able to match up with Grant when it comes to the height and the reach would actually be Niner Nick. You got to watch out for Niner Nick. He doesn't look as intimidating on the streams as he does when you get in person with Niner Nick. He's a bigger dude than you'd think, and he might be able to get that reach in and pop Grant a couple times at the start of the Royal Rumble. Uh, and then Harvey says, let's see a flag football game. Hey, that'd be fantastic. I'd love to have a flag football game. Let's bring it on. I haven't played flag football in about 25 years, but hey, I can play quarterback in a flag football game. I don't have to run around too far for that. Anyway, it's been a lot of fun. I'm gonna jump off now and let you guys all get going and get on with your day. I really appreciate this. This was a ton of fun. Like I said, I wasn't expecting to be on here for an hour and 11 minutes on a Saturday afternoon. I was thinking we were just going to be on here for about 20 minutes, get in, get out, and be done. But you guys were a blast today in the comment section. And next time I do this, maybe I'll even throw the link out there and have you guys call in instead. So thanks a lot. If you like everything that you see on my channel, please subscribe, hit the like button, comment, do all those things. Just trying to get get my name out there for folks to get the content. And I just really appreciate all the time that you guys put in today. Have a great Saturday, and we'll be back to you tomorrow. Enjoy the game. Make sure you tune in tomorrow morning, though, or tomorrow at around 2 o'clock. If you're subscribed to my channel, you'll see the notification as to when it's set to go live. But I will be on it around between 2 and 2:30 tomorrow with Surreal Sunil on my channel for the 49ers Game Day Preview Show. So check you back tomorrow. Have a great rest of your Saturday, and see you on Sunday. Thank you.